Welcome back, everybody. It's Meeting the Masters, Matrix Master trainers today. And I'm so honored to be with Caroline Rhodes. And Caroline, wow, you're just so amazing. So first of all, would you like to share your background and what your credentials are? Because there's too long for me to read.
Well, I mean, my background is actually I'm a physical therapist, and I graduated in the United States near the Grand Canyon in Arizona, if you're familiar with that area, Flagstaff. And that was back in 85. So I have over 35 years of experience. And I have always pretty much been in private practice. And I already knew early on in the 80s, I kind of wanted to be more holistic because I saw myself on the medical merry-go-round. I saw my family, my loved ones on the medical merry-go-round. And so I was just wanting to learn more. And I eventually quit my practice in Santa Barbara a long time ago, and I moved to Hong Kong. And I did not realize I was going to be there for over 25 years, but I was able to build up a practice there. And I consider myself a holistic physical therapist. And we had a lot of really amazing practitioners there, energy medicine and everything. And during that time is when I first learned about EFT. And that was through Dr. Mercola, if you're familiar with him, and he's like, try this tapping thing. And I started doing it. And I was like, wow, that was amazing. I mean, it was immediate, the changes. So even though as a physical therapist, I thought, well, I want to learn that because it was for me. And then it took me a couple years before I could start introducing it to my patients. So I was able to kind of sneak in there how I could introduce EFT to them because they would have this chronic pain and weren't getting better. And I'd be like, oh, this is emotional. So I was like, now how can I introduce EFT to them without looking like this is wacky and I'm not actually mobilizing their shoulder to help them feel better? Yeah.
It's so exciting as well because you've just made another choice is to come back to America. So where are you? Because my geography of America is a little bit thin.
So I'm in the mountain states. I'm in a state called Utah, and it is beautiful. I'm out in the country. I'm way out in the country. It's called the Little Switzerland, um, because the Swiss settled here a long time ago. And it's just outside of Park City, so I'm surrounded by beautiful mountains and lots of, clean air, and I'm surrounded by dairy farmers, which is awesome, and, I have access as much as I can to have clean air, food, and water, which is really important to me.
Yeah. And you said that EFT was quite immediate for you and for your clients. But how did you manage to then transition into Matrix? Where did that?
Okay, so, well, I had met Carl through a friend of mine, and, I don't know if everybody knows this, but Carl used to live in Hong Kong. So he had contacted somebody in Hong Kong, and she said, "Oh, you need to meet Caroline Rhodes." And so he and I connected in that way, and he knew that I was already doing EFT and that I'd studied, um, stacks of material at that time, the tapes. And so he wanted to run a Matrix course. And he was introducing what Matrix was about. So I was said, "Oh, I'd love to have you come to Hong Kong." And so as I started to study Matrix, I was blown away by, wow, this is like EFT on steroids.
Yeah.
And I mean, EFT is fast already, but when you start doing Matrix, you knock off hours of treatment using Matrix and you get right to the problem very quickly by, as you know, treating the age of the person who had the trauma.
And isn't
Yeah.
it just so beautiful with Matrix when we can go back to that core emotional conflict in safety?
Yes, it's safe. You're not traumatizing the person. Because one of the things that I did was I had quite a bad trauma and I was going to psychotherapy in and out for about 9 years. And, they make you go through it, live through it. And it's very traumatizing. So you keep re traumatizing yourself talking about a trauma. And so with Matrix, it's just so, I mean, elegant is a great word for it. It's very elegant. You don't re-traumatize the person. You know, when you're skilled enough, you know how to dip in and out and do all kinds of different things to help, you know, circle in, get to that person, the younger self, and work with that trauma. And one of the things that I was able to actually work with a lot of, especially because I was in Asia, is a lot of sexual abuse
Mm.
at a very young age. So I became very comfortable working with that kind of thing and any kind of abuse, actually. But you know, Asia's sadly a place where a lot of that happens, and a lot of young people get used and abused.
And with did you find though that it actually helped on a collective consciousness as well when you were dealing with one person with the family?
You know, I think it does because, you know, when you have that trauma, you're resonating a certain frequency,
Yeah,
and you might be bringing that trauma to yourself, right? Because you know, you like attracts like. So when you collapse all of that, it affects everybody around you.
yeah,
So I think that, you know, because I worked with a lot of women and a lot of their issues started coming out when they started having children, which is right, that's very common. You know, your memory starts resurfacing about your childhood. I think that, you know, by me being able to help them, it changed their resonance for their children and their family, their husbands even, you know, even their husbands could feel a difference because there's a lot of, you know, layers of complication that go with a trauma. It affects other people in your life that you're intimate with or your children if it happened when you were a child.
I don't know about you, but sometimes I just think about how wonderful this gift is to break that cycle, that pattern of epigenetics or generational or past life, whatever you like to call it. But
Mhm.
when we're working in the matrix, we can just disintegrate, disentangle.
Well, yeah, because, you know, can I just tell you a little bit about how I treated myself for some significant things?
Please.
So I grew up, my mother was originally from North Korea. So that's before it was North Korea, but she grew up, you know, in a country that was completely occupied. The communists were coming. So I grew up with these really sad stories, you know, of what it was like living in that kind of environment. And when I started learning EFT and Matrix, I realized I was carrying this, you know, genetic program, you know, and I have a twin sister. So we're very close. And so we started working with each other. So she's an EFT practitioner and matrix practitioner. So we were working with each other to get rid of all of this, you know, history. And it really helped our family. It helped our relationship. You know, we were close anyway because we're identical twins, but it was even more so on a different level. But what was really interesting that for me that was hugely profound was I'd already I had a disease of the thoracic spine called Sherman's disease. And at one point they wanted to fuse my spine. And I did not want them fusing my spine. I did not want rods put in because as a PT, I knew what that was, how limiting that was. And later, when I started to study, you know, meta health, meta medicine, whatever you want to call it, mind body medicine, that's about low self-esteem, you know. And so over the years, I managed to build up my self-esteem, felt better about it. And when I, you know, was tapping on a lot of stuff, when I got an MRI in my 50s, I had a perfectly normal spine. You know, and I think this is really interesting because a lot of people get an MRI or CT scan and they're, you know, they're given this diagnosis like, oh my God, we're gonna have to do surgery. Well, that's not true. You can reverse, bone is living tissue, cartilage, all of that is living tissue. When you can get rid of the emotions that maybe got trapped in there that's causing this degeneration, you can repair it.
Yeah.
So then I got rid of a tumor using Matrix. And what was really profound was I was born with a heart problem. And so when I started understanding Matrix, I went back in time to my unborn self and treated her for a broken heart. And I even went back to the cardiologist after I'd done this 3 times, Matrix 3 times. I went to the cardiologist, wore the monitor, they did everything, right? And he's like, well, you were misdiagnosed. And I'm like, okay, I'm not misdiagnosed. I know I had a mitral valve prolapse. So, I mean, I'm just such a big believer in EFT and Matrix. And I mean, I've got tons of patients I've helped
Yeah.
who canceled their surgeries, reversed some serious conditions. So, how can you not love something that's so simple and effective?
Yeah, I find it so interesting that the medical um, profession will immediately say, "Oh, that's a misdiagnosis." That's my clients are get so upset, and they go, "Do you think we were misdiagnosed? But we saw the scans, we saw the tumors, we saw that." And
Right,
it's so
right.
interesting, isn't it, that they don't think that they're misdiagnosing right at the beginning.
Right. Oh, no, clearly you were diagnosed and you needed all the stuff to support your condition,
Yeah.
right?
And then suddenly, I mean, I even had it from my vets, when my little cat, my big story about me and my cat, and I love telling this story. I don't know if I've chatted about it in other interviews, but I love sharing that story with my clients because my clients don't normally, they come to me from chronic disease, but a lot of them are stuck up here. They're stuck in their prefrontal cortex. And I make a little joke saying, well, if you were a little bit dumber, like my cat, and she's not dumb, I'm not calling her dumb, I'm just saying she
Right.
doesn't have that large prefrontal cortex, it would be so poof, because she healed herself in 2 hours
Wow.
doing surrogate tapping while I
Okay.
was in the car outside the vet. Now, when I changed vets, and the vets thought I was some kind of witch, and as you know, Caroline, I'm not a healer at all. But doing the surrogate matrix with her, she had a strangulated gut and no platelets. So I used Meta and Matrix. And the vets kept on saying, "Well, we've got another cat like that. Would you like to?"
Wonderful.
No, no, I don't want to.
Oh, you didn't want to help somebody else's cat.
I'm so sorry, but I love my cat, and that was important. And I help people. People are my thing. I love animals. But when I moved, and um, the new vets went, "Oh well, they must have got it confused with another cat." She was in a coma. I've got a photo of her in a coma, and
Right.
they go, "Oh no, no, you know, um, it's like going to the hairdresser and going." Oh, who cut your hair last? Oh, that was bad. No, the vets must have been crap the time before. What's that?
Right.
Yeah, so you do such beautiful work, and in America, you're starting afresh with your new trainings with tapping, and you're such a beautiful trainer. I just love to
That
see.
means so much to me because I just love the way you practice and your knowledge. And I just, I just think you're amazing, Penny.
Oh, look at us. I'm only I'm only me, and we can only be me. And what I love about Matrix, it allowed me to be me
Yeah.
because it's for me. And we were just discussing before we came online that I'm not very rules and regulations, and this is Matrix for me. Oh, we can dance, we can sing, we can cry, we can be creative, we can, you know, the clients then become their own autonomous practitioners with their younger selves.
Mhm.
What sovereignty, what a gift.
And sovereignty is so important. It is so important. Huh?
To have our own agency in whatever we do, whether it's with a frozen shoulder. I mean, the work you do, because you're trained in so many other modalities as well.
Mm,
But to have your knowledge, and what I love about the work that you're doing, people, when they're lying on your bed, they're trusting you completely. They're giving you your body. And now you've got the emotional and the physical knowledge.
yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you say that because to me, the most important thing is the emotions. Even though my career is based on physical, right? Structural, biomechanics. I mean, that is important. And sometimes, you fall off the roof or whatever, recover and you hurt a few things, yeah, sometimes it's good to put some things back in place. But if you've got a chronic condition that's not healing, that's not normal because our bodies regenerate. So you have to look at, well, why is this still a problem, years down the road?
Yeah. Do,
So,
do you have any case studies that you can share, just because you've just shared amazing self-healing with the tumor, with your spine? And I think this is so important, this spine, because so many people go for the rods and our spine is so flexible. They
yep.
don't realize that the spine, putting these rods in, can actually create further trauma.
Mhm. Down the road, yes, lots of problems.
So many.
Each one of those joints have to move, and that, a lot of people don't realize it, but these joints back here, those are the ones that are supposed to move when we breathe. When we breathe, our back should do this. It's not this
Yeah.
or abdominal breathing. It's actually back here. If you watch an animal, they're breathing here, right?
Yeah.
So, if those joints aren't moving, you're not getting a good inhalation. And you're having to compensate with so many other muscles. So that already, plus you've got all the scar tissue around there, and then the nerves going to the rest of the body, the vasculature, so I mean, surgery should be a last resort. Unfortunately, it's almost come down to being, oh, let's just look at this MRI. Oh, look, this is all degenerated. Let's schedule for surgery. So I'm actually finding that surgeons are referring less and less to physical therapists to prevent surgery. They're going from MRI, this is really bad, to surgery.
Gosh.
It's kind of,
Yeah, it is. I
it's an
just
industry in
pause
it.
for thought there. Pause
Yeah.
for thought there.
So, but
Because there are so many different ways to self-heal. And
I've had my share of injuries. Even last year, I tore a tendon in my forearm. And I was on some gymnastic rings and doing more than I thought I could. I've learned a lot to be more to just be like, okay, Caroline, you're not, 30 anymore. But, so I tore a tendon and, I mean, it was excruciating, but I kept saying and I just kept tapping on it and like, what is this about? And then I just kept saying, everybody was like, you just need to have surgery or whatever, but it repaired itself. And if we all had the patience to just wait and nourish our bodies and find out what the emotion is that's trapped around that and clear that up, you will heal so much faster. And it's really interesting because I read one of the indicators that increases your chances of cancer is surgery,
yeah,
right? It's one of the markers. So why not try to prevent something like that? Because as a lymphatic drainage therapist, I know every time they cut into your body or if they remove a lymph node, you're now really messing up your immune system.
yeah. I wonder, I'm always curious about, when did we forget that we had an innate healing ability in our own bodies?
Hmm, that is such a good question. um, I think it was when, well, am I allowed to say hijacked?
You're allowed
We
to
got
say
hijacked by people who had an interest in making a huge amount of money on drugs and surgery, bottom line.
yeah,
And they hijacked the schools, the trainings, the medical. I don't know about in your country, but in my country, the pharmaceuticals companies control the big universities where medicine is taught.
yeah,
And, I don't want to sound, there's sometimes when you need to take medicine, but if you've got a chronic condition and they tell you you have to take this drug for the rest of your life and they all have side effects, I think this is a time to say, hey, well, maybe there's another way,
yeah,
but sometimes you do need to take medicine and I don't, and sometimes you need to see the doctor. And when you have an emergency, if I get hit, by crossing the street, if I get hit by a truck, if I can tap, I will tap, but I will go to the emergency room too, right?
well, traffic is so great for simply co-regulating and self-regulation of ourselves, allowing
Right.
ourselves to breathe again and to just
Yeah.
have that pause moment. Yeah, it's just we could talk for hours, darling. So how would you sum up in one sentence Matrix Reimprinting?
Um, oh my God, I don't know, I'm gonna cry. I
Oh,
think it's this gift. It's a tool that we were taught, and what Carl introduced to all of us was the ability to tap into our ability to heal very quickly. And it truly is a gift from God, universal intelligence, whatever you want to call it, to be able to heal ourselves. And I think it should be taught in schools.
yeah,
I really think it should be taught in schools. And, it's yeah, it's just an amazing self-help tool that is easy. And I guess, the saying by Gary Craig, the downfall of EFT is it's so simple people don't believe that it can work
yeah,
because they almost forget that they had the problem. It's so quick.
yeah,
And, usually we're used to suffering for such a long time with something that when it vanishes, it's almost like you almost forget you had it, or it was just too good to be true, or it's a coincidence, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard that, the apex of, and it's,
The apex.
yeah, oh, well, it is sunny now, Penny, but you've had this for 15 years and it's
Right.
got, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh. So, if anybody wishes to get hold of you, what is your email or website that they can find you, darling?
Well, because I just relocated back to the States, my you can still get through my old website, which is www.thebodygroup.com. My email is Caroline, Caroline, at thebodygroup.com. And now that I'm in the States, I'm going to build another website, which I haven't done yet, but I will. But you can still contact me through my email, which is, I think, the best way. Right now, I just decided to take a break from social media. So I'll get back on there soon, but just, was just a little bombarded.
Yeah. So come and find Caroline in Utah, and I might
And
come.
you must come visit me. It's beautiful here. You like fly fishing? No. Um, we have Sundance Film Festival. Sundance is
Oh,
beautiful. It's just
well, then I'll be there.
tourists,
That's more of my,
eating, lots of, outdoors. It's stunning.
yeah.
Beautiful place.
So beautiful to hear your healing journey and so inspiring. And you're just such a real person, Caroline. It's been so wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your contribution. No, I mean, really, worldwide, helping people all over the world. And I just think that's so grateful. And, you teach some amazing things and you do it in a really great way. So like, help more people learn more about the mind-body connection. Wonderful tool.
Thank you so much.